Now, if you didn't know already, I love being a YouTuber. Script writing's a lot of fun, editing videos is always a blast, and recording my own voice is certainly something. But despite how much work I put in these videos, I'll inevitably have to get a job. Sorry if that was a little scary for some of you, but all those job thoughts got me thinking. What does the employment scene look like in the Deltarune universe, specifically in the Dark Worlds? Each one might have a strong boss, but which of the main Dark World bosses is the best at being a boss? Today, my Custopians, we will not be power scaling the main bosses of Deltarune. We'll be employment scaling them. We'll be taking a deep dive into what employment would be like under the main bosses of chapters 1 through 3 if you were a Darkner. And because chapter 4's main boss isn't exactly in the hiring mood, we'll be swapping it out for the old man. In order to rate each of the Dark World's bosses, I'll be giving letter grade rankings in 4 different categories. The environment you'll be working in and the dangers you'll have to face, the work you'll have to do, the coworkers you'll have, and the quality of the bosses themselves. I'll go through each boss in order and give my final rankings at the end. And I will also not be including Castle Town in my ranking because it's simply too awesome. Now, of course, a lot of this will be my own opinion on specific characters and personal interests, so feel free to drop your own ranking in the comments below. Alright, before I get to ranking jobs in these fictional worlds instead of trying to find one in real life, let's check out some featured Custopia fan art. Now, if you haven't seen my last Deltarune video, I'm a Chris X Birdly shipper, so of course today's featured fan art is all Curdly themed. We've got an amazing piece of fan art from my festival bit featuring good old Togor Dreamer, some art of Chris wearing Skechers because why not, and while it technically isn't fan art, someone drew an entire comic on Twitter that was inspired by my festival bit, which is just amazing. Anyways, thank you all for fueling the Curdly agenda, and let's get back to Employment Rune. Starting off with the classic, the powerful, the fat. Oh, Kingy Wingy. Out of every boss I'm gonna talk about, he's certainly one of them. While he does claim to care for his people, he isn't against throwing them in his cold, gloomy dungeon of despair. I mean, hell, he threw a guy in there for making a puzzle without a license. Imagine creating a masterful puzzle that only the best can solve in order to stop the Lightners, but you end up getting thrown in prison just because you don't have a license. And if the Fun Gang shows all the Darkners under King just a little bit of kindness, they don't hesitate to overthrow him, meaning that he was most likely a pretty crappy boss. When it comes to the work you'll be doing, there isn't exactly much. Like I said earlier, you can't create any cool puzzles because all the puzzle making's been delegated to that guy. I mean, you can go out and patrol for Lightners, help run bake sales, and take care of Lancer. And I know a lot of you will jump at the opportunity to take care of that little bouncy blue pumpkin, but I don't know how much fanning and splat MP3s I could take. But being a father would be pretty cool, I guess. Speaking of Lancer, I feel like your coworkers would be fine. Rudins, Hathies, Jigsaris, and all that aren't awful, but I feel like they'll just be average. They do remember birthdays though, which is pretty nice. And maybe if I was having a bad day, I'd hang out with the Pawn Men, because they seem pretty chill. Clover seems to also work for King and would also just be a fine coworker. At least her parties would be fun, and I think talking to 3 heads would be entertaining. And of course, we have to talk about Rule's card. I know he's a bit of an acquired taste, but maybe if you get friendly with him, he'll allow you to make puzzles. Maybe he'd even refer to you as his apprentice, which I know at least a couple of you would like. Now lastly, we're gonna have to talk about the environment. The Card Kingdom isn't the most dangerous Dark World to work in, but it does have issues. I don't know if the Starwalker Bird or the Scissor Dancers will go after you if you're a Darkner working for King, but they'd certainly be a pain to avoid while you're patrolling. The Great Board would also be rough to deal with. It would suck trying to get back to the castle after a long day of patrolling, and you'll have to constantly deal with being sent all the way to the start of the board just because you weren't fast enough. Another pain in the ass would be the Forest Labyrinth. I would not want to deal with all that path crap after a hard day's work. And without Lancer and Susie showing you the wrong ways to go, it'd be annoying trying to get it down. But even with all those negatives, the trees around the Card Castle have candy growing on them, so that's fun. When it comes to where you'll stay, the king does allow some of his subjects to live in the Card Castle, each with their own specialized rooms, and even a shop where you can buy Rules' stuff. so upkeep is most likely not too much of an issue. Overall, despite some dangers and a mean boss, working under King wouldn't be the worst. Yeah, the work is mostly boring and the coworkers are average, but King does canonically pay his subjects, which is pretty sweet. Queen is an interesting boss to have. She's certainly the funniest out of every boss, but she's also the most unpredictable, which is a crazy thing to say considering Tenna's on this list. One second, she'll be driving in her car right after a glass of battery acid, and the next, everything around her just explodes. Every day under her might be insane and dangerous, but you'll never get bored. Man, this job sucks. Why are we even clearing out the street in the first place? What, is Queen planning some kind of parade or something? Oh my. But despite how fun and interesting it'd be to work under Queen, she's also terrifying. While I don't think she's ever followed through with her threats of turning faces into robot ones, she does like to use those wires to control Plug Boys and Birdly. I feel like if you wanted to avoid getting your face plugged in, you should just do your best to cooperate and be a good worker. I mean, she hasn't used any mind control on the Swatchlings or the tasks, and even Ralsei was treated kindly after being employed by Queen. She even gave him a really nice suit, which means that while you're working for her, you'll get access to some pretty sweet clothes. And out of all the bosses on this list, I feel like you'll be interacting with her the least, since she's always out and about. The work you'll have to do for Queen is a bit of a mixed bag. There's a lot of things that Queen makes you do that are just completely random, but there's also some standard jobs as well. You'll certainly have to do a lot of cleaning considering all of Queen's explosion gags, cleaning up task paw prints on the ground isn't awful, and serving food to Queen's guests is fine. Now while there are some easy jobs, there's also a lot of tough ones. For one, minding the pottery is a bit rough, considering it's practically everywhere, and facing the wrath of extremely muscular bird people in color-changing suits would not be good for your health. Dealing with mice is also going to be an issue. While Task Manager and her tasks can take care of them, they can't be everywhere at once, and if the mice do appear, the Swatchlings aren't going to be much help. I don't want to confront a group of mice and suddenly they turn into a 4x4 mouse stack called Mousepad or something and then chase me around the mansion. There would be no chance I uphold the pottery rule if that happened. But I think the biggest issue you'd have to face in the Queen's mansion would be working in the Lake of Acid. Because it's, well, acid. Not only that, but you can straight up just be left behind there. That Swatchling was so thankful for being rescued that it allowed you to break the pottery. Now we have to get into the environment of where you'll be working, and I'm gonna be honest. Queen has the most dangerous environments to work in. Queen herself says how dangerous the city is, and yeah, it most certainly is. You can try and just work specifically in the mansion to avoid the dangers of the city, but working there is just as dangerous. You need to deal with a crap ton of cars, weird salesmen trying to get into the mansion, angry mice, dogs under the table that ram into you at 60 miles an hour, and you know the entire mansion probably smells like battery acid, which is just gross. Comment below if you like the smell of battery acid, by the way. But despite all the dangers, Queen's mansion does have some pretty cool stuff. The decor and overall aesthetic of the mansion is pretty sweet, the color cafe looks amazing, and no, I'm not saying that just because it has a bunch of buff birds. The food they provide seems pretty nice, and the most important thing of all, due to the dark world itself, the mansion most likely has internet. I know all of us can't live without the internet, and having a place to watch Dark World YouTube or go to Dark World Twitter during a break would be the dream. Makes me wonder what Dark World Custopia would be like. You can also just type stuff on the big computers and you'll gain it physically, with your room being fully customized depending on your browser history. Oh no. Now I don't know if those amenities are for the Queen's staff to use, but with how many doors there are, there's a chance that all the workers have their own rooms too. Finally, let's go over your coworkers, and honestly, I think Queen's staff are the best coworkers to have out of all of them. I mean, look how supportive they are of Ralsei in his little suit. They seem like they'd genuinely be good coworkers in non-mouse situations. Just don't disrespect the pottery. Swatch himself seems like a very cordial and professional person. Task Manager could train you into becoming a proper butler or maid, and also Newbert's there. And come on, you guys are Deltarune fans. I know a lot of you are very interested in Swatch and Task Manager, so there's always that too. Overall, while Queen herself is a wild card of an employer and everything around could kill you, the coworkers seem kind and the work you'll be doing will never leave you bored. Also internet. Oh, Tenna, Tenna, Tenna. The beautiful, mentally unwell man you are. Now, to give credit where credit's due, I think the TV world is environmentally the best out of the 4 Dark Worlds when it comes to working there. The different sets are all amazing and look like they'd be a lot of fun to take part in, but I think the shining star of it all is the green room. There's just so much you can do in it, and it looks absolutely swanky. The only problem is that all the fun stuff we see Tenna's employees do is after they start to rebel against him. So during work hours, I'm not sure how much freedom they actually get. When it comes to the work you'll be doing, there's actually a lot. You can shoot contestants from trees, get delicious food hurled into your mouth, get your picture taken, act, and my personal favorite, beating the absolute crap out of Tenna. And even when you're not on set, you can chill in the green room, play some video games, and hang out by the water cooler. But despite all this fun stuff you can do, there's also a chance you'll get stuck doing virtual paperwork in a virtual office, which from the looks of all these shadow guys, seems draining. While the work for Tenna seems a lot less dangerous than working for someone like Queen, there also seems to be a lot less freedom. Your coworkers, despite not being as good as Queen's staff, are all pretty solid. While the Pippins seem kinda sassy, they and the Shadow guys seem to know how to have a good time, with all their looting and dancing during the Great Tenna Rebellion. The only problem is trying to understand them. Hey, what are you Shadow guys up to? I also feel like Ram would be a neat coworker to have as well, but it does suck that everyone's mean to him. The Zappers are pretty cool, and El Nino and La Nino aren't horrible. I would just hate to be caught in between their breakup. Speaking of breakup, now Tenna for the most part seems like a decent boss. I mean, he doesn't seem too mad that his employees are beating the crap out of either a statue of him or just him painted gold. But as he begins to go crazy, that crappy boss side of him really starts to come out. All of his employees are contractually obligated to fight for him and do his bidding no matter what. Which, I'm not sure how powerful a contract is in the Dark World. I'm not really sure if you can Dark World sue someone and take them to Dark World court. Tenna's employees must have figured that out too, because they really don't seem to like him. They disobey and try to escape at any chance they get, and they just party when he starts to go off the deep end. Oh yeah, and they also loot. While you do get paid in points, Tenna must be a really crappy boss to warrant this much backlash from his staff. And honestly, from what we've seen, I really don't blame them. Tenna is, of course, very mentally unstable and can go off the deep end pretty quickly, which seems to be not only caused by abandonment, but from his very bitter breakup with Mr. Spamton G. Spamton. I've seen quite a few comics where Tenna gets drunk and extremely depressed over his ex, and judging from how not over it Tenna is, I can very well see it being canon. Yes, Tenna, I'm really sorry about what happened between you and your ex, but I haven't been paid in 5 months and I'd really like to talk about that. I'm gonna be so real, if I got lost in the sauce with Tenna and he'd start complaining about his ex, I would shut up and listen the entire time. Now, despite how mentally unstable Tenna can be, I'd honestly still put him around the same level as King and Queen. He may throw some people in the dungeon and fire them, but from what I've seen, he doesn't actually physically hurt anyone. He didn't even do anything after a bunch of Pippins robbed him. So yeah, despite being a lunatic, working for Tenna wouldn't be that bad. Now, when it comes to Old Man Gerson, he might be the best boss out of all of them, which really isn't saying much considering they're all insane. But working for Gerson would definitely be the simplest in terms of what you'll have to do, because you'll either just study, dust shelves and books, and rearrange things. It's essentially just working at a massive library, and unlike the other bosses, you don't really have to go anywhere while you work. You don't need to patrol an area or clean up someone's mess. You can just stay in the library and avoid the dangers that the Church Dark World has to offer. While I will definitely find the work boring, the study and library seem really cozy and peaceful. I can definitely see myself sitting down by the fire and reading something after I finish dusting. But I do wish there was a nice place to sleep. Oh well, you can sleep on the shelves and use books as blankets, I guess. Now, of course, the best thing about working for Gerson is Gerson. Having an old, wise mentor as your employer who teaches you how to be a better, stronger person would be amazing. If I worked under Gerson, I could definitely see him asking me to read to him in order to teach me how to become better at recording scripts. And while having a wise old mentor would be awesome, your coworkers wouldn't be the greatest. While Jackenstein is always a delight, he's the only one I could really interact with since the other options are, well, hey Gue, how are you doing today?
故斯托皮亚.
What? But despite the coworkers being hard carried by Jackenstein and the work being a bit monotonous, the environment and Gerson himself would more than make up for it. I couldn't see myself working there for long, but I'd definitely keep in touch with Gerson. Well, employment scaling was a lot of fun. And if I had to give my final ranking, it would be King, Tenna, Gerson, and Queen. I know I gave Gerson a higher rank than Queen, but I'm gonna be honest. Despite how dangerous working for the Queen would be, I need me that internet. Make sure to comment below what your ranking would be. But that's all for today's video, and I will see you all in the next.